Hurricane Melissa hit South Beach 3 days ago, and I discovered that my husband has been sleeping with our neighbor for over a year. Let me repeat this because even now, 72 hours after catching them in our bed, the bed I bought with my manager's salary, the bed where we made love so much, and is the same bed I cried myself to sleep in after losing our baby. Photos from our wedding where I recording the happiest day of my entire life. If I cry or if my voice breaks during the story, my husband told me I apologize. The feeling experienced in this situation is as if something is tearing inside us. I just wish I could wake up and look at our photos to a safer place. Our travel photos, 26 years old, photos from our wedding, recording the happiest day beautiful in that natural, simple way. If I cry or if my voice breaks, I've heard her talking about the church she always attends on weekends. The feeling she dresses well in simple but beautiful clothes, with long dark hair, a calm voice, and a smile that makes people want to help her. Well, I worked an average of 50 to 60 hours a week. Hurricane Melissa to support us for a while as he changed careers and now worked from home as an accountant. With plenty of time to develop a secret relationship right under my nose. The storm may have been monitoring for a week. To take my the one everyone in South Beach, with my eyes closed. Everyone in watched my husband sneak out of our bedroom at 12:17 a.m. to have sex with our guests, boarding up windows, while stocking up on supplies, and evacuating. He was beside me. To a safer place. He waited awake. And Melissa. He got up. 26 years old, young, I'll repeat it for you. Single mother, he was already lying next to two houses down from ours. I didn't say he was at a bar or with friends, but with a roof that the owner never properly he was next to me. But this beautiful so in that natural, simple way that women have. I've heard her talking about the church. It's hard to remember on weekends. But she dresses well in simple but beautiful clothes. She doesn't show off curves or extravagant. Let me go back to the beginning. She has a simple appearance. It was 10:45 p.m. A calm voice, chaos, and a smile that makes people want to help her. Batteries gone. That same woman I invited faster than we could stock it to take shelter from over the last packages of D batteries like they were gold bars. Uncle Sam found me in aisle 7. That simple, discreet neighbor is the same goods we had left. He is not actually my uncle. That's just what everyone calls Samuel Rodriguez. For 16 months, a 63-year-old stock clerk who's worked at this Walmart for 18 years. Walmart Sarah, to support us for quietly, a while as he looking around to make sure no customers were nearby. I kept stacking cans, with plenty of time to develop a secret relationship right under my nose. What about Melissa? My name is Sarah. Uncle Sam shifted uncomfortably, like I've been married to David for 6 years. I heard you talking to David on the phone earlier. I pretended to about inviting her to shelter at your house, lay in bed with my eyes closed. I had been on the phone and watched my husband sneak out of our bedroom discussing whether we should invite Melissa to have sex with our guests. Her rental house was in Category 4 hurricane raged outside. The roof had visible damage. He was beside me. Yeah, he waited awake. Her son is with his father this week, so he sneaked into the guest room, and her house isn't safe. I'll repeat it for you. David and I have a two-story with tinted windows and a generator. I didn't say he was at a bar or with friends. Uncle Sam glanced around again, making sure we were alone. He was next to me. You take medication to sleep, he looked at me, gave me the anxiety pills shake since you lost the baby. My face must have shown my shock because I repeated it because I'm not trying to who have gone through this feeling. You mentioned it once months ago what I feel when you were explaining a simple flame outside of marriage without contact, medication, without involvement, in the morning. Only for maybe stay alert with another person. Pay attention to what's happening in your own home. I felt my face flush with anger, but this was so cruel. You're suggesting David would cheat on me with Melissa while I'm sleeping in the next room during a hurricane. I'm suggesting that opportunity for us to start again, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Especially when you're unconscious for 8 hours a night. David would never. I stopped, realizing I was having this conversation in the middle of Walmart with customers potentially within earshot. Tuesday, and probably 5 days before the hurricane. Old man worrying about things that aren't his business. Night manager, but he didn't look like he believed that. p.m. He looked like he tried to warn me, and I hurricane panic, and now he was just waiting for me to figure out. Every generator sold out. I went back to stocking empty, irritated. The conversation bothered me moving faster than we could stock it. We'd been through too much together over the last packages. Things had been rough since I lost the baby. They were gold bars. That was normal. Hurricane Melissa for 11 hours. Meteorologists were predicting it would hit as a strong Category 4, possibly even Category 5. Mandatory evacuation orders went out for the Bay. I had a headache blooming behind my eyes that promised to become a migraine. And he had to finish several projects from our home office. Uncle Sam, we were staying in aisle 7. He looked tired. He'd been up late working on client files, preparing for the possibility. He's not actually my uncle. That's just what everyone calls Samuel, he said, Rodriguez, kissing my cheek. A 63-year-old stock clerk who's worked at this Walmart for 18 years. People are panicking. He's got gray hair, kind everything. And this way of seeing things other people miss. I'm going to deploy the shutters, he said quietly, after I finished looking around to make sure no customers were nearby. My stomach tightened. Uncle Sam's warning echoing in my head. What about her? I kept stacking cans, Cooper was our golden retriever. If it's about the schedule, sleeping in his bed in the corner. Labor Day she mentioned her landlord still hasn't fixed her roof. She's really worried about the hurricane. It's about the hurricane. I was thinking then you should talk to corporate about time off. David's face showed relief. Really? I was going to suggest the same thing, but I didn't want to impose on you. I stopped stacking cans and stressed with work. Let her know she's welcome here. She can take the gas shifted uncomfortably. That's really kind of you, Sarah. Like he was choosing his words carefully, and it looked genuine. I heard you talking to David on the phone I'd fallen in love with about inviting her to shelter at your house during the storm. He did. By Wednesday afternoon with David during my lunch break. Melissa would come over discussing whether we should invite her dog to stay with us. A small mixed breed named Bailey. Her rental house was in terrible condition. The roof had she'd been terrified of staying in her rental didn't seal properly. No hurricane shutters. I pushed down the small voice. Her landlord was one of those slumlords who did the bare minimum. This was fine and ignored repair requests. Thing to do. With a Category 4 hurricane coming, David loved her house was dangerous. Melissa was just a neighbor in need. Nothing her son is with his father this week. The storm was bearing down on Florida, and Hurricane Melissa had maintained Category 4 strength longer than expected, and projections showed it making landfall somewhere near Miami. Uncle Sam looked at me with an expression I couldn't South Beach would take a direct hit. David had spent the day finishing final preparations, I don't think that's a securing outdoor items. Why not? Melissa arrived plenty at 7 p.m. with the guest bedroom is just her dog Bailey and an expression of profound gratitude. She was wearing yoga around again, an oversized shirt. We were alone. Her long dark hair. You're going to be stuck inside with him, and she looked young and maybe 5 days. And grateful. I was so scared about staying in my nowhere to go. The roof has been leaking for months, and the young, my landlord, attractive woman trapped in your house. Her voice cracked. I thought the roof might actually come. You're safe here, I assured her, meaning it. Melissa set down her bag and let Bailey off the leash. The little dog immediately started exploring, sniffing everything. This is perfect, Melissa said. Really, I don't know what I would have done without you guys. We're neighbors. We'll probably lose power at some point, but we have a generator, so we'll have lights and refrigeration at least. I felt guilty for even momentarily suspecting her of anything inappropriate with David. She was just a scared single mom who needed help during a crisis. We ordered pizza for dinner, the last meal we'd get from a restaurant for several days. The 3 of us sat in the living room, eating and watching the Weather Channel's constant hurricane coverage. Hurricane Melissa was now a strong Category 4 with sustained winds of 145 miles per hour. It was going to be bad. David kept the conversation light, asking Melissa about her son, her work. After dinner, I took my evening medication, the anxiety pills that helped me sleep, and went to bed around 10 p.m. I needed rest before the storm hit. Friday, one day before the hurricane. I woke up Friday morning groggy from the medication. Watched them very carefully not look at each other. It was nothing. Probably nothing. Just my paranoia from Uncle Sam's warning. But I couldn't shake it. The hurricane was getting closer. Melissa would make landfall that night. The news was showing footage from Jamaica devastation, flooding, roofs torn off houses, trees stripped bare. This was going to be bad. Filling containers with water. David cooked a big pot of chili that we could eat cold if necessary after we lost power. I worked a half day at Walmart. We stayed open until 2 p.m. to give people last-minute supplies, then closed and sent everyone home to shelter. When I got home around 3 p.m., the wind was already picking up. The sky had that eerie yellow-gray color that comes before major storms. They were sitting on separate pieces of furniture, David and his recliner, Melissa on the couch, but something about the atmosphere felt intimate, like I'd interrupted something. "Hey," David said, standing up. "How was the final shift?" "Crazy. Everyone panicking." I collapsed onto the couch, exhausted. "Before it gets really bad." The storm hit that night. Hurricane Melissa made landfall at 11:37 p.m. Friday night near Homestead as a Category 4. Hurricane with sustained winds of 140 miles per hour. By the time the eye wall reached South Beach around 1 a.m. Saturday morning, we were experiencing the full force of the storm. The noise was unbelievable. Wind screaming like a living thing. We all gathered in the living room, the most interior space in the house, away from windows. Melissa was pale, clutching Bailey. David looked tense but calm. I just wanted it to be over. "This is so scary," Melissa said, her voice shaking. "I've never been through a hurricane this strong." "The house will hold," David assured her. The last thing I remember before the medication took effect was David sitting on the couch next to Melissa. Not quite touching, but close, their heads bent together as they watched the Weather Channel coverage of the storm. I slept through the worst of it, through the hours when Hurricane Melissa's eye wall passed directly over South Beach, through the brief calm of the eye, through all of it, chemically unconscious while the storm raged. When I woke up Saturday morning around 9 a.m., the house was quiet. The hurricane had passed. Weak sunlight filtered through the gaps in the hurricane shutters. Everything looked innocent. Hurricane Melissa had devastated South Beach. We couldn't go outside yet down power lines. Debris everywhere, flooding in some areas. Emergency services were warning everyone to stay inside until they'd assessed the damage and cleared the road, which meant we were trapped in the house together. Me, David, Melissa, and an atmosphere that felt increasingly strange. David and Melissa were too careful around me, too conscious of maintaining distance, of not being alone together, of including me in every conversation. It felt performative. "Just getting more coffee." "No problem," David said too quickly. Melissa was just asking about the generator." "Right," Melissa agreed. "The generator. How long it can run." They were lying, I could tell, but I didn't know what about. And thought about Uncle Sam's warning. What if he was right? What if something was happening in my house? And I'd been sleeping through it every night, knocked unconscious by medication designed to shut down my anxious brain for 8 solid hours. My heart was pounding. This felt crazy, paranoid, but I couldn't shake Uncle Sam's voice in my head. Maybe stay alert. Pay attention to what's happening in your own home. I laid in bed with my eyes closed, breathing slowly and evenly like I did when I was asleep. David came to bed around 11 p.m. I felt him settle in beside me, careful not to disturb me. He was always careful when he thought I was heavily medicated. I stayed still, kept breathing slowly, waited. Time crawled. 11:30, midnight, 12:30. At 12:47 a.m., David shifted, got out of bed carefully. I heard him moving in the darkness, quiet as possible. Footsteps toward the bedroom door. I opened my eyes the tiniest amount, just enough to see through my eyelashes. He crossed the living room toward the guest room where Melissa was staying. The guest room door opened. Melissa appeared, and even in the darkness I could see she was wearing almost nothing, just a t-shirt that barely covered her. David pulled her into a kiss, not a friendly kiss. Our house guest. During a hurricane, while I was supposed to be asleep upstairs. How long had this been happening? I went back to our bedroom on legs that didn't feel like they belonged to me, got back into bed. David came back to bed at 2:34 a.m. I've been watching the clock, each minute an eternity. He slid back into bed beside me, careful again not to wake me. Came downstairs, poured coffee, greeted David and Melissa like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't watched my husband kiss our house guest in the darkness 12 hours earlier. "Morning," David said cheerfully. "Sleep well?" "Great," I lied. "The medication really knocks me out." I saw something flash across Melissa's face. Guilt, maybe? Roads were being cleared. Power was still out for most people, but crews were working on it. We still had the generator, so we were better off than most. David suggested going outside to assess any damage to our house. I said I'd stay inside to clean up from breakfast. As soon as they went outside together, I moved. Messages from David going back 14, maybe 15 months. Hundreds of messages. Explicit messages. Photos I didn't want to see. Evidence of a relationship that had been going on for over a year right under my nose. Can't wait until Sarah goes to sleep. Need to be inside you. Last night was incredible. The way you were quiet so she wouldn't hear ... outing. They'd been sleeping together in my house for over a year. While I was medicated and unconscious upstairs, in my bed probably when I worked night shifts. How they'd planned this. I put Melissa's phone back exactly where I'd found it. Went back upstairs, got dressed. This time, I got up immediately, took my phone, followed him downstairs. I recorded everything. While they had sex in my guest room, while Hurricane Melissa aftermath still had us trapped in the house together, I recorded David coming back upstairs. Then I went back to bed and laid there with evidence of my husband's affair stored on my phone. Monday, 3 days after the hurricane. Monday morning, power was restored to most of South Beach. Roads were clear enough for travel. The hurricane emergency was officially over. Melissa could go home now, should go home. You should probably stay until they finish clearing debris, David said over breakfast. It's still pretty dangerous out there. If you're sure it's okay, Melissa said, looking at me. I don't want to impose. Stay as long as you need, I said sweetly. Let them think I was still the oblivious medicated wife. Monday afternoon, while David was working in his home office and Melissa was supposedly napping in the guest room, I called Uncle Sam. He answered on the second ring. Sarah, are you okay? How did you weather the storm? I need to talk to you, I said quietly. You were right about everything. There was a long pause. Then, I'm sorry, Sarah. I wish I'd been wrong. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop that had reopened near the Walmart. Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. I told David I was going to check on the Walmart, see when we'd be reopening. He barely looked up from his computer, relieved I'd be out of the house. The timeline of their affair. Uncle Sam listened quietly, his expression growing darker. I should have said more, he said when I finished. Should have been clearer. Made you understand. You tried to warn me. I wrapped my hands around my coffee cup, needing the warmth. What do I do now? What do you want to do? I wanted everyone who'd been at our wedding 6 years ago to know what he'd done. I wanted his family to know. Her family to know. Everyone. But more than that, I wanted out. Clean, complete, irrevocable out. I want a divorce, I said. By Tuesday afternoon, I had a consultation scheduled with Patricia Chen, a divorce attorney known for handling complex infidelity cases. I met with her Tuesday evening, telling David I had to cover an emergency shift at Walmart. Patricia reviewed all my evidence, texts, videos, the timeline, everything. You'll get a favorable settlement. Just got dressed, came downstairs, and found David and Melissa having coffee in my kitchen, like they had every right to be there together. Morning, David said. Want coffee? No, I said. I want both of you to sit down. We need to talk. Something in my voice made them both go still. Melissa's face paled. David's smile faltered. I have video of you together. I have audio. You're sorry you got caught. Not sorry you did it. I looked at David. Did you give her the infection? The one that made me lose our baby? His silence was answer enough. That hit me harder than anything else. The baby I'd lost, the miscarriage at 12 weeks that had devastated me. Get out of my house right now. I backed away. I've already filed for divorce. Get your things and get out. This is my house too, David protested. I pulled up my phone. Just wanted them gone. By Wednesday evening, I was alone in my house. Just me and Cooper, my golden retriever, and the silence. And then I broke down. A year of sleeping beside a man who was betraying me. A year of taking medication that made me unconscious so he could sneak around with our neighbor. I cried for hours, for the marriage that had been a lie, for the year I'd wasted being faithful to someone who didn't deserve it. 2 months later, the divorce was fast, which means technically David's affair shouldn't have mattered for asset division. But Patricia argued that his use of our marital home for the affair, his financial support of Melissa with marital funds. David got to keep his retirement account, and his dignity was shredded in court documents that became part of public record. His family was horrified when they found out. His mother called me crying, apologizing for her son, saying she'd raised him better than this. His sister sent me a long message about how she'd always liked me, how she couldn't believe David had done this, how she hoped I'd find happiness. My mother wanted to drive to South Beach and have words with David. He never said, "I told you so," though he had every right to. Just offered support and reminded me I wasn't alone. "You're going to be okay," he told me one evening when he brought over takeout and we were sitting on my porch watching the sunset. "I know it doesn't feel like it now, but you will be." "How do you know?" I asked. "How can you be sure?" "Because you're stronger than you think. You survived losing a baby." He smiled gently. "You're a survivor, Sarah. This is just one more thing you'll survive." He was right, though it took time to believe him. 3 months later, apparently the thrill of sneaking around was essential to their chemistry because once they could be together openly, everything fell apart. They lasted 6 weeks. Melissa's ex-husband, the father of her son, found out about the affair and used it to modify their custody arrangement. She lost primary custody because the judge felt her judgment was questionable. She ended up moving out of South Beach entirely, back to wherever she'd come from originally. David moved into a sad apartment near his office. Lost several accounting clients when word spread about the affair. Apparently, business owners don't trust their money to someone who can't be trusted in his personal life. His mother barely spoke to him. His sister stopped inviting him to family events. He tried to contact me once, 3 months after the divorce finalized, sent a long email about how he'd made a mistake, how he'd been going through something after I lost the baby, how he wished we could talk and maybe work things out. I deleted it without finishing. There was nothing to work out. No amount of explanation or apology could repair what he'd broken. Besides, I was moving forward 6 months later, but I didn't need it anymore. Turns out most of my anxiety had been my subconscious recognizing something was wrong in my marriage. My body knew I wasn't safe with David, even when my conscious mind didn't want to accept it. Once he was gone, once the threat was removed, the anxiety faded. I slept naturally now. I also started therapy. It helped to hear that, to be reminded that I hadn't failed by being trusting. David had failed by being untrustworthy. You lost a baby because your husband was unfaithful. That's not your fault. That's not the universe being cruel. That's direct cause and effect. Your anger is valid. I let myself be angry. For months, regional manager position, overseeing multiple stores across South Florida. Better pay, better hour, more responsibility. I almost turned it down, imposter syndrome telling me I didn't deserve it, that I was too damaged from everything that had happened, but Uncle Sam talked me into accepting it. They're just finally paying you for it. Take the job. So I did. Turned out all those years of managing a chaotic Walmart night shift had prepared me well for handling multiple stores and diverse. I also started dating again, cautiously, very cautiously. It was terrifying putting myself out there after David's betrayal, trusting someone new with even small pieces of my heart. The first few dates were disasters. Learned the difference between healthy caution and trauma-driven paranoia. I met someone eventually. Marcus, a high school teacher, divorced himself. Kind and patient and completely different from David. We took things slowly, coffee dates, then dinner, then gradually more. He knew about my divorce, about the affair, about the baby I'd lost. He was patient with my hesitations and boundaries. I can be here while you heal, however long that takes. It was the right thing to say. I cried, relieved that someone understood I wasn't damaged goods, but a whole person recovering from injury. 1 year later, 1 year after Hurricane Melissa made landfall, I was living a completely different life. It was good, healthy, built on honesty and communication instead of secrets and lies. We talked about everything: boundaries, triggers, needs, fears. It was work maintaining that level of communication, but worth it. "We were worried about you," one friend admitted when we met for lunch. "You seemed so stressed all the time, so worn down. Made me physically exhausted by encouraging me to work extreme hours. It made me less angry at myself for not seeing it sooner." Complete accident. She was visiting South Beach, probably seeing her son who lived with his father now. She looked terrible older than her 27 years, tired in a way that went deeper than lack of sleep. She approached me. She stopped, seemed to gather courage. I owe you an apology. A real one, not the bullshit I said when you kicked me out. A real apology. I waited. What I did was unforgivable, Melissa said. Sleeping with your husband in your house while you were asleep upstairs, there's no excuse for that. I knew it was wrong. I did it anyway. And I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry. Why? I asked. Why did you do it? Melissa looked at the floor. Because I was lonely, and he paid attention to me. And he bought things for my son. And I convinced myself it didn't matter because you didn't know, which is fucked up. I know it's fucked up. I was lying to myself about why it was okay when it obviously wasn't okay. Did you know about the baby? I asked. That I lost a pregnancy because of an infection from your affair? Her face crumpled. I didn't know until after. David told me months later, when I asked why you seemed so anxious all the time. He said, she stopped. He said you lost a baby to an infection, but it wasn't related to us. But it was, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. Melissa looked like she might cry. I'm so sorry. God, Sarah, I'm so sorry. There's nothing I can say that makes that better. No, there isn't. We stood there in the produce section, two women whose lives had collided in the worst possible way. I lost custody of my son, Melissa said quietly, because of the affair. His father used it to show I had poor judgment. I only see Tyler every other weekend now, and I deserve that. I deserve all of it. I didn't argue. She did deserve consequences. But I also saw that she was suffering them, and that brought me no joy. I hope you're okay, Melissa said. I mean it. I hope you found happiness. You deserve so much better than what David and I did to you. I'm okay, I said. I'm happy. No thanks to you, but I'm okay. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Good, that's good. She walked away. I watched her go, feeling oddly at peace with the encounter. I'd gotten an apology I never expected. 2 years later, 2 years after Hurricane Melissa, I was genuinely happy. Not the performative happiness people show on social media, but real deep contentment with my life. Marcus and I got engaged. Small proposal, nothing dramatic. Just him asking while we were hiking, saying he wanted to spend his life with me if I wanted to spend mine with him. I said yes without hesitation. We planned a small wedding. Simple, meaningful, focused on actual commitment instead of performance. My career was thriving. Regional manager position was challenging but rewarding. I'd implemented new policies across my stores, improved employee satisfaction, retention. The work mattered. I was good at it. I felt valued. My mental health was stable, processing ongoing life challenges and maintaining the progress we'd made. But I wasn't drowning anymore. Wasn't barely surviving, was actually living. I'd also started volunteering with a domestic violence organization, helping other women recognize financial abuse and coercive control. Sharing my story anonymously at first, then eventually using my real name to help others see the patterns I'd missed. If you're working but have no access to your own money, that's not budgeting, that's abuse. If someone is restricting your access to funds you earned, documenting your spending, making you ask permission for basic purchases, that's control, not partnership. Women would approach me after these sessions, sometimes crying. 3 years later, 3 years after Hurricane Melissa, I barely thought about David anymore. He had become a character in a story I told about my past, not someone who occupied space in my present. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he'd remarried. No jealousy, no anger, no residual feelings at all. Just mild curiosity about whether he'd cheat on her too. Then indifference when I realized I didn't actually care. Marcus and I had been married 18 months, on addressing problems instead of letting them fester, on being partners instead of adversaries. We talked about kids, whether to try, whether it was too risky given my history, whether I could emotionally handle another pregnancy after losing the first one in such traumatic circumstances. Whatever you decide, Marcus said, I'm with you. If you want to try, we'll try. If you don't, that's okay too. If you want to adopt, we'll adopt. If you want to stay child-free, that's valid. This is your decision about your body, and I'll support whatever you choose. I loved him for that, for making it my choice instead of pressuring me toward what he wanted. We decided to try, carefully with close medical monitoring with therapy support to process the anxiety. I got pregnant 5 months after we decided to try. The pregnancy was terrifying. Every twinge, every cramp, every moment of feeling off had me convinced I was losing another baby. But Dr. Morrison helped me work through the anxiety, reminded me that trauma from past pregnancy loss didn't mean this pregnancy would end the same way. "You're not the same person you were 3 years ago," she said. Marcus was patient through all of it, through my panic attack, through my need for constant reassurance, through the days I was convinced something was wrong. He came to every appointment, held my hand during every ultrasound, reminded me to breathe when anxiety threatened to overwhelm me. I cried during that ultrasound, partly from joy, partly from grief for the baby I'd lost, partly from fear that something would still go wrong. But nothing went wrong. The pregnancy continued, healthy and normal, all the way to full term. 3 years, 9 months later, I gave birth to Emma Rose on a Tuesday morning in June. 7 pounds, 3 ounces, healthy and perfect and screaming. It was a mess of tears and joy and relief that we'd made it through pregnancy to this moment. "She's perfect," Marcus whispered, touching her tiny hand with one finger. "Sarah, she's perfect." The baby I'd lost wasn't replaced, could never be replaced, but the grief had space now to coexist with joy. I could mourn what I'd lost while celebrating what I'd gained. Uncle Sam visited us in the hospital, brought flowers, held Emma with the confidence of someone who'd raised kids of his own, told me I was going to be a great mother. "You survived so much to get here," he said quietly, looking at Emma sleeping in his arms. "If you hadn't said something, I might still be married to David, still unconscious every night, still missing what was happening in my own life." "You would have figured it out eventually," Uncle Sam said. "You're too smart not to. I just hoped you see it a little sooner, maybe, but I was grateful anyway. Grateful he'd cared enough to say something uncomfortable. Grateful he'd noticed I was in trouble when I didn't recognize it myself. Grateful for his friendship through everything that followed." 4 years later, present day. It's been 4 years since Hurricane Melissa hit South Beach. 4 years since I discovered my husband's affair. Regional manager for a major retail chain. Married to someone who respects me. Mother to a healthy, happy 1-year-old daughter. Living in a house that's mine, with furniture I chose, with memories that are only good ones. I'm not the same person I was 4 years ago. That Sarah, the one who took anxiety medication every night, who worked herself into exhaustion, who trusted too completely and paid attention too little, she's gone. I mourned her for a while, that naive version of myself who believed marriages were safe and husbands were honest. But I like who I've become better. The Sarah is wary but not cynical. Trusting but not blind. Strong because she had to be. Whole because she refused to stay broken. I still think about Hurricane Melissa sometimes, both the storm and the woman. How the worst night of my life, watching my husband sneak out of our bedroom to sleep with our house guest, was also the beginning of my freedom. If it hadn't happened, I'd still be married to David. Still taking medication that made me unconscious. Still working extreme hours while he controlled our money. Gave me the clarity, literally, by making me stop taking sleep medication to see what had been happening all along. Sometimes destruction is necessary before reconstruction. Sometimes you have to lose everything to realize what you actually need. Sometimes the worst storm you'll ever weather is the one that finally sets you free. I tell this to women I work with at the domestic violence shelter. The humiliating parts and the painful parts and the parts where I was stupid and blind and chose to not see what was happening. I was you, I tell them. Trapped in a marriage that was killing me slowly. Controlled financially, socially, medically. Made to feel like I was the problem when the problem was my partner. And I got out, and I rebuilt, and you can too. Some believe me. Still in the stage where they think if they just try harder or love better or fix themselves more, their partner will change. I get it. I was there too. But I plant seeds. Tell them about Uncle Sam, who noticed I was in trouble and said something even though it was uncomfortable. A whole life built on honesty instead of lies is possible. And I tell them about Hurricane Melissa, how sometimes the worst storms reveal the truth you couldn't see in calm weather, how sometimes destruction is the only way to uncover the rot that was hidden beneath the surface, how sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself. Epilogue: Emma's first birthday. Emma's first birthday party was small, just family and close friends in our backyard on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. Marcus grilled burgers. I made Emma's favorite foods, mostly mashed banana and yogurt, but still. Uncle Sam came and brought a stuffed golden retriever that Emma and Emily loved. Watching Emma smash her first birthday cake, seeing her covered in frosting and laughing, I felt overwhelmed with gratitude for the life I had now. This moment wouldn't exist if I'd stayed with David. Emma wouldn't exist. This happiness wouldn't exist. What are you thinking about? Just grateful, I said honestly, for all of this. For you, for Emma, for the life we built. Even though it started with a hurricane and discovering your husband's affair. Especially because of that, I said. If it hadn't happened, I'd still be living a lie. I'd never have met you. Emma wouldn't be here. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you leads to the best thing that could happen to you. Marcus kissed my temple. I love you. I love you too. Uncle Sam approached, holding his phone. Sarah, sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. He showed me his screen. A news article about Hurricane Melissa, not the storm, but the woman. She'd been arrested. Something about welfare fraud, using her son's social security number to claim benefits she wasn't entitled to. The article mentioned her past, including losing custody of her son due to an affair with a married man. I felt nothing reading it. No satisfaction in her consequences, no residual anger, nothing. That's growth. It was. 4 years ago, I'd have obsessed over Melissa's arrest, seen it as cosmic justice, gotten some satisfaction from her suffering. I had Emma's birthday party to focus on, my daughter covered in cake, my husband grilling burgers, being happy, raising my daughter in a home built on honesty and love instead of lies and control. Hurricane Melissa, both the storm and the woman had come and gone. They damaged things, destroyed things, changed the landscape of my life irreversibly. But I rebuilt, stronger, better, more authentically mine. And that was the ending I deserved. Not perfect, nothing's perfect, but good, real, worth the storm it took to get here. Author's note. This is Sarah's story told in her own words. 4 years after Hurricane Melissa changed her life, she wanted to share it to help other women recognize the patterns she missed. Financial control disguised as money management. If you work but don't have access to your own money, that's abuse. Medical dependency. If someone is encouraging the use of medications that keep you unconscious or dependent, ask why. Psychological manipulation. If you are constantly being told that your perceptions are wrong, trust your instincts. You deserve to have access to your own money. You deserve to be aware and attentive in your own home. Hurricane Melissa, the storm has finally passed. Hurricane Melissa, the woman, has finally gone. But the lesson remains. Sometimes destruction is necessary before reconstruction. Sometimes you need to lose everything to discover who you really are. Sarah found herself. She found strength. She found happiness. You can too.